Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Member Monday Spotlight. I'm so excited that we have Pam Wilson here with us. And Pam Wilson is an absolutely phenomenal member of our LEAP community. And every Monday, we bring a different member of our community forward to share with you their tips, to share with you what they're working on, to share opportunities that you can take advantage of. And today, we're talking about whole brain thinking. And Pam, please introduce yourself and tell us, what is whole brain thinking?
I would love to do that, Colleen. I'm Pam Wilson. I'm actually a freelance writer. And as Colleen knows, I wanted to be able to do something else with my social work background and my writing background. And so I became a certified whole brain thinker in February through Herman International. And basically, whole brain thinking is a methodology. It's a way that we can understand how we think and how we process information. Whole brain thinkers use their whole brain, right mode, left mode, upper mode, lower mode. And it's a way to put ideas into action. And the way that I use it in companies and organizations is that it helps people with innovation, change, being a leader, being an effective team member, and also improves productivity and your work-life balance. So it's a methodology that was created by Ned Herman in the 70s. And he did a lot of research. He was very intrigued by why people would react differently to a stimulus. We could both see the same piece of artwork, but we thought differently. And so they're still doing research and they're collecting data through Herman International, which it's amazing. And basically, it lets people know their thinking preferences. And so once you know your thinking preferences and anyone else's thinking preferences, it's a place to come from, and you can speak the same language. So it's very intriguing. It's based in science, which I love. Companies have been using it since the 70s. There's like 5 million people who have been exposed to this in a good way, and basically can go into any organization, university, foundation, nonprofit, for-profit. Your company could have 2 people. It could have hundreds of people, and so what we do is we bring whole brain methodology in, which can be overlaid on any company culture.
Got it. That's amazing. So I know you did a workshop not too long ago. And what was the audience for that workshop that you had done not too long ago?
The certification that the workshop. Okay. So the workshop that I actually was able to present, I know some business associates, they've been doing this for 30 years, and they were doing a presentation on whole brain thinking at Wharton for individuals in the finance business. And they were working towards their MBA. And so because I'm a writer and I have a facilitated writing group, I said, have you ever used writing in the workshops? And so we created something called Capture Your Experience. And it was my very first experience. I've been facilitating workshops for many, many years. This was my first experience in the whole brain world, facilitating a writing component of a workshop, and there were 225 people. And you will laugh, and I tell the story all the time. My biggest concern was I don't have like work clothes to wear because I'm in yoga clothes all the time, but I did it, and I had 20 minutes to facilitate this capture your experience, and people did it. They respond, 225 people. Now, granted, they had just come from Bragg, they had cookies and brownies, but they did it. They wrote, and then they wanted to share the writing. We had them break up into trios, and they shared it. And I had a lot of people approach me afterwards asking, is this the right kind of writing? How can we use it in whole brain? And as we all know, when you use writing in any kind of work, it solidifies your ideas. So writing is a huge part of whole brain thinking. And my plan is to facilitate workshops in companies and organizations, as well as do some whole brain writing, which you can see all over LinkedIn. Herman International is an amazing organization, and they have phenomenal writers and facilitators. So that was really exciting. One thing that I do want to make sure that I talk about is when a company approaches us, we go in and we talk about their strengths and what's going well and what are their challenges. And one of the things that Ned Herman created, this is really cool, Colleen, and I'd love for you to take this HBDI, is called an HBDI. So basically, Ned Herman, I hope you can see this, came up with the whole brain model, which has 4 quadrants to our brain. So
Yeah.
we all work and play in these quadrants. We have an A quadrant, which is very analytical and logical.
Mhm.
We have a B quadrant, which is green, which is very practical and sequential. That's where your planning takes place. There's a C quadrant that's very relational and creative, and cares really about people. And then there's a yellow quadrant, the D quadrant, which is very experimental in his whole brain. So he wanted people to access their thinking preferences. These
Mm.
are not skills or abilities. They're thinking preferences, which, by the way, you are born with. And they stay your whole life. So what we do is we administer something called the HBDI. It's a 116 question survey. It's all electronical, and it's really fun because it asks you really cool questions about your life experiences and what you've done in your life and what you'd want to do in your life. And the whole idea is that once you get an HBDI profile, which I hope you can see this, it'll be all over my website, you understand your thinking preferences. The interesting, really cool thing about an HBDI, Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, it also gives you a pressure under profile.
Mm.
So and I think you can maybe see this. This is no surprise to anyone who knows me. I live and play in the red and yellow quadrant. I'm very creative. I'm very whole picture. I'm very interpersonal. However, I do have some thinking preferences in the green and blue because I have to be able to pay bills. I have to be able to get out of the house. I have to
Yeah.
be able to make phone calls. So my under pressure profile as well, it actually leads me a little bit into the green and blue because when I am under pressure, I might be really concerned with people and say, oh my gosh, how can this all work?
Right.
But I'm also planning and organizing. So with the HBDI, this is really interesting too. It has many applications. You can build more effective teams. You
Mhm.
enhance your communication skills. Your business becomes more innovative because if you know thinking preferences, you understand where other people are coming from. Everybody is talking the same language, and it's a foundation to build trust. There's also a plan for accountability. So when we go into companies and we
Mm.
brief these HBDIs in teams and trios, sometimes leaders, they want leadership to understand what the HBDI is, then you can come up with a plan. So I'm sure we've all been in committee meetings or work meetings where they've assigned you a task and it's not your strength. So if you know your own thinking preferences and your strength, you know that's where you can shine. The other really cool thing about this is, and we're all grown-ups here, is that even if your strengths, your thinking preferences aren't in a certain quadrant, you
Mhm.
can stretch. So since I have taken the HBDI in February, I have been trying to stretch into the green and blue. So creating a business is all about green and blue. And somebody asked me this week, they're like, well, do you even plan? And I said, let me show you my notes. Like my notes are long. So I'm learning all of these different skills. And this has been going on since the 70s. Many organizations and universities and companies have been using whole brain thinking.
Yeah.
It's a great methodology. The great thing, there's no judgment. You can't judge somebody on their thinking preferences. And once you debrief people, every single person, bar none, has had an aha moment. And it could be as easy as a salesperson saying, oh, because this also measures your energy level. Oh, my energy is too strong when I walk into certain
Mhm.
places. For someone like me who was told all of my life, I grew up in St. Louis, this was the comment I would get,
Yeah.
you're so creative. Well, yeah, because guess what? At age 61, I found out why I'm so creative and the benefits that it offers me. And I know that my thinking preferences lean into that. And I have to be honest with you, I'm intrigued by everyone's thinking preferences because if you think differently, like I'll say to people, well, what brought you to that conclusion? What made
Yeah.
you think that? And so many companies have used this. It's really fun to go in and facilitate. People really enjoy this. It's a way to have a great professional development. The other great thing is that if you know your thinking preferences, you know your stakeholders because once you understand whole brain thinking, you can understand where they're coming from and how they're thinking. And actually, I have a friend in fundraising, and she said it's the best thing because she knows how to approach them in a way that
Mhm.
able to understand and be able to process it. So it's really exciting and really fun. I've been learning a lot about people. We do caution people not to call people yellow people and blue people, but like in personal relationships, you're like, oh, that was such a blue comment. In work relationships, you're really not. We caution people not to do that. But oftentimes I'll say, oh, my yellow quadrant's showing up, when I'm like confused about something or overwhelmed. And I'm always going to find the humor in something like that. So
Right.
the HBDI, it's really interesting. And whole brain mental, you can go to Herman International and read anything. They've got videos on YouTube. It's a really fun way to, it's a fun way. It brings something else into a work situation. And it improves work-life balance because you're more efficient and your
Absolutely.
productivity improves. So you can go home and spend your evening with your kids or with whoever you want.
Yeah, it sounds like even if a company out there maybe even has like a disconnected team or a team that isn't functioning at its highest power because there's something going on, but they can't really figure out why the team isn't as cohesive as the team needs to be. This sounds like it really dives down into some of those layers to bring out each individual person and what's happening with them and how they're thinking. But then on top of that, teaches them other skills of how to be able to use the whole brain, like you said. How much of the brain do we actually use? You know that?
That's a very good question. I'm remembering it's not like a lot of it,
No.
a lot of our brain. And if you understand where you are, where you live and play, you can go into it on a foundation of security and trust. So the interesting thing is when people in decision-making positions understand whole brain thinking and have taken the HBDI, they understand more where people are coming from. Like I was in a leadership workshop on Friday, and she said to us, think of leadership qualities. And so your brain automatically goes to what you want. It's the same thing. If you are working in a team, you know the kind of team members that you want. Think about 10th grade when you did the whole project and no one else would. Well, you're a grown up now. And so certain people have certain thinking preferences, and they're going to come at it from a very different way. So leaders are also finding that this works in a really acceptable, appropriate way because it's thinking preferences. And actually it's a great way. It's a brand new frame. Well, it's not brand new. It's a framework for solving problems and getting things done because you are able to make plans that again are non-judgmental. You come in. I've heard what happens in companies, and the whole company now is whole brain thinking. It'd be really fun to do the research before, during, and after for a smaller company that you could manage. So I am in St. Louis, and there are people all over the world who are certified, whole brain certified practitioners. And the workshops can be done on Zoom. They're really fun when they're in person because there's a PowerPoint presentation. And the best thing is I'm very experiential. So we get up and we move around and we move to different parts of the room, and you play card games and you talk to different people because, as you know, if you do something, it retains. You keep it. It stays with you, which is really, really fun to do. And then, you think to yourself, wow, I learned all of that. And you can think about your own thinking preferences. It also does help you in your relationships because you know the questions to ask. So interestingly enough, when you read more about this, each quadrant has its own set of questions. Like the red quadrant always wants to know who, and the blue quadrant wants to know what. And the yellow quadrant wants to know why. And so when you start asking those questions from all the quadrants, you have an entire picture. You have a whole brain picture.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And you can go to wilsonmentoringwriting.com to find out more about the whole brain thinking and how Pam can come into your organization, whether small or large, to be able to bring those skills and that workshop to your employees or your leaders. You can also follow Pam on Facebook at Wilson Writing. It's another area that you can connect with Pam, as well as on LinkedIn at Pam Wilson. So look up Pam Wilson on LinkedIn. She's also connected on this live video on LinkedIn and Facebook and in YouTube. So we hope that you will reach out to her. I also shared this link earlier, which showed the quadrants about what you were talking about, if anyone wanted to click on it and was interested in knowing more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
in
Pam,
addition, I offer a 30-minute free lunch and learn. So if you connect with me in any of those areas, it's a free lunch and learn. We talk about whole brain, the HBDI, we do activities. And then if you want anything further, we have that discussion. And I'm creating that right now. And I think people will really like just a 30-minute lunch and learn. And yes, I will bring cookies or chocolate, I promise.
that's wonderful. So it's a great way for you to go and do the presentation so they can get a better understanding about that. So make sure you reach out to her at wilsonmentoringwriting.com to learn how you can bring whole brain thinking into your company. Well, Pam, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing all of this new way of really bringing teams together cohesively and getting everyone thinking on the same page almost. It's everyone is so different, yet in companies they expect everyone to act and be and do the exact same way, and that's really tough for an employee. I remember that even in my own years, when you have a certain way of thinking, you're going to do it the way you do it, and that doesn't mean it's going to be the same as someone else. Right. So I love that you shared that today. There's so many ways you can reach Pam. Pam, thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a member of the LEAP community. We love having you there. You bring so much value. And until next time, for all of you, go crush your goals and make sure you are aligning the resources that you need for your business or for the company that you work with to make sure that everyone is thriving and not simply surviving. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Colleen.
Bye-bye.